It's also day 15 of the civil unrest after the murder of Mr. Floyd, and now we're dealing with the two situations simultaneously. And in many ways, they both then compound each other, right? It's not just the protests, it's protests happening during the COVID situation. So we have to deal with both. The protests continued yesterday all across the state. They were by and large peaceful. But the protesters are basically right. It's not just a New York State phenomenon or an American phenomenon. It's happening all across the globe. I mean, it is amazing. I was watching this morning protests in Rome, protests in Spain. It's all across the globe. And people are saying enough is enough. And it is enough. It is enough because it's been the same point over and over and over again. Bring reforms to the criminal justice system. Bring reforms to policing. We've seen the same situation happen 20, 30, 40 times. How many times do you have to see the same situation before you act? And we're going to act in the state of New York. Transparency of disciplinary records for police officers, what they call a repeal of 50A, which, by the way, what 50A says is the records of police officers will no longer be exempt from disclosure. So the records of police officers will be like every other public employee, right? They'll be like teachers, they'll be like CSEA employees or DC 37 employees in New York City. Their records will be available. And if people made complaints about them, they will be in the record and they will be released. Ban chokeholds. We went through it with Eric Garner. I mean, how many times? But passed a law that says that. The Attorney General, Special Prosecutor, 5 years ago, I did an executive order that said the Attorney General should investigate cases where police kill an unarmed person. Why? Because a local district attorney, and I have tremendous respect for the district attorneys. I was an assistant district attorney in Manhattan, but a district attorney works with that police force day in and day out. How do you expect the public to think that the local district attorney, as an arbiter, is going to be unbiased? Attorney General, statewide elected official, who can do the investigation of police misconduct and give the people of the state confidence that it's a fair investigation. And a banning of false race-based 9/11 reports. We worked with the legislature over the weekend. I think we have an agreement on the bills that are going to be introduced. If they pass the bills that we've discussed, I will sign the bills, and I will sign them as soon as they're passed. I want to thank both of them for their leadership. This is a difficult time. People are angry. People are angry on multiple issues. And feelings are intense on multiple issues. So in the midst of it, you have to find out what's right rather than just what's politically expedient. And I want to praise the Senate leader and the Assembly leader, the Speaker, for their leadership. And I hope we have a good, productive week this week. But this is not about what an individual state can do. It's actually broader than that. New York State will take this legislative action, and I hope it then becomes a model for other states to follow. We've done that in New York a number of times. We did it with marriage equality. We did it with free college tuition. We did it with raising the minimum wage. New York acts, and then it provides a spur for progressive action by the rest of the country. But this is also bigger than what states can do. What this protest really is about is systemic racism and systemic injustice and systemic inequality. Yes, when it comes to policing, but frankly, it's worse than just policing. It's the fundamental institutions in our society that systematize discrimination. It's the fact that we have two education systems, one for the rich and one for the poor. And poor children receive a different education than rich children because there's a gross funding disparity. It's the lack of an affordable housing agenda, where the federal government just doesn't provide affordable housing anymore. They used to provide Section 8 vouchers. They used to provide what's called project-based Section 8 vouchers so you could build. They used to build public housing. That's all stopped. That's all stopped. It's the healthcare system, what we saw with COVID, that you have inequality in the healthcare system. And the neighborhoods where the COVID ravaged are the neighborhoods that had less health care to begin with. That's not a coincidence. That's the fundamental cause of the injustice. And that's what we should be addressing along with policing issues. And there is a moment to do this. There's a global moment, there's certainly a national moment for that change. Carpe diem, carpe momentum. Seize the moment. There's a moment. Change comes in a moment. When did we pass gun safety? Right after Sandy Hook. Why? Because people said enough is enough. People are saying enough is enough again. Seize the moment and end the systemic injustice, inequality. Education, health care, housing, policing, criminal justice.